That said, we're starting to see more of that as it pertains to the organizational chart. And one of the things that we first do is we build an accountability chart, which is a little bit different than an org chart. That's based out of the book called Traction. And
Gino
we
Wickman?
Yeah, Gino Wickman's book. Yeah, it's an excellent book. And we did EOS implementations for the last few years in a lot of our companies. And so that's kind of the first step. And that basically just divides up the company into different business units as opposed to looking at individuals first. And so you design that chart based on what the needs are of the company. And so obviously there's finance, there's marketing, there's in the sales in the case of reservation sales, but there's also business development and growing inventory, and then there's all the operational components, so housekeeping, maintenance, guest services, and so on. And so that's usually how we see it broken down. In the smaller businesses, the founder is typically kind of the general manager as well, until they get to a certain scale, and then many companies have us come in and help them find that general manager that really is an EOS speak, again out of the book Traction, that integrator. So we're looking for that a lot of the times for a lot of our companies. And then you have different roles like housekeeping manager, maintenance manager, reservations manager, or director of reservations, or however they want to title it. And then there's obviously the accounting piece of it. Scaled companies. I mean, at peak, we had 5 people in our accounting department because that is a big part of vacation rental management, obviously. Marketing, so director of marketing, CMO, VP of marketing, however you want to title that particular role. And then business development is a key piece, so growing it. Initially, what we see in smaller companies is the owner is generally the person that's doing business development. But as that company scales, you get to a certain point, they bring on somebody to help sell into inventory and grow the inventory of the company. So that's a pretty typical breakdown, if you will.
Okay. And for those that are, I guess, unfamiliar with that book, EOS, I believe, stands for Entrepreneurial Organization System or something like that.
Yeah. So
operating system.
Like software, but it's not. It's really just a system by which you operate the business, and it's very simple and it's real straightforward, logical stuff. And even back before I knew that book exists, I did some of those things, just inherently in my business, but the overarching structure is a really great one. So I definitely recommend somebody that's kind of starting out a business or wanting to scale their vacation rental business is an excellent book to read for sure.
Do you have, maybe we could dive into a little bit of an example in terms of the accountability chart versus an organization chart? Like maybe we could just choose one person, let's say.
Yeah, well, there's usually in all accountability charts, I should say, there's the visionary, which is the founder, right? And most people that set out to start a business typically have some vision to them, right? And so there's the visionary. The integrator is the person just below that in that particular chart. So even though I said we don't have titles, those are the two that actually sit on the accountability chart, which is different than an org chart. And the integrator is the person that seamlessly executes on the vision. So they take that vision and they work with the rest of the team, whether that's finance, sales, operations, to be able to get all of those things done. So that's kind of a typical accountability chart. Is visionary at the top, integrator is kind of second in command, think COO, VP, and then everybody else below that segmented into different business units. And in a typical vacation rental company, again, it's reservations, it's marketing, it's accounting, it's business development, it's housekeeping, it's maintenance, it's guest services, owner relations. That's really the typical department setup within that. And those are the business units. And then we decide, once we have that developed out, then we take that into becoming an org chart where we actually put names of individuals there. In small companies, typically the owner or individuals within the company will have multiple hats, meaning they'll do different departmental components until that business grows to the point where you have that full organizational chart that I just described.
Yeah, and doing it that way, I guess, makes the organization much more fluid. You know, people can kind of go in and out in a sense. I mean, that's kind of what a company is in a way. It's supposed to be its own entity, right? Legally and operationally.
Well, the more broken down a company is, and as it scales, the less single points of failure, we like to say, there are. Where if somebody wasn't able to come into work that day, we've got coverage and cross training and all those different components early on. You have a single point of failure. Usually, it's the owner, and then even when it's small, when there's just a handful of employees, everybody really needs to know everyone else's jobs, because that can happen, right? So. But the more scaled the organization is, the less challenges you have in that regard. That said, the more complex the business becomes. For example, marketing in this industry can be pretty complex. If you have a revenue manager, if that person doesn't show up, it's not like everybody can just pick that up. So the more complexity there is, the more challenges there are in that regard. But you definitely want to have coverage across the different departments from a cross-training perspective.